Welcome to the podcast, Chris Graham and Ray Petree. We're going to talk wrestling and focus on AEW wrestling. And I want to start the show just by mentioning that we're going to at least acknowledge. I haven't seen too much acknowledgement of this in wrestling media about how the floods from Hurricane Helene have actually impacted AEW, a couple of AEW stars. It's known that Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Adam Copeland all live in Asheville, North Carolina. Now, I was scanning social media, Ray, earlier, and I haven't seen anything from Cash or Adam Copeland. They don't do much, it seems, on social media outside of just regular stuff about wrestling. Dax Harwood, it kind of lives on social media, it seems, and he did post yesterday just that the storm walloped him pretty hard. He was home in Asheville, and man, that situation there looks horrible. Roads in and out of town washed out, power gone, no communications, or very limited communications. It just looks awful. So I mean, of course, there's a much bigger situation just with all the people who were affected by that, but certainly from a wrestling perspective, we'll try to keep tabs on all that. It's just a horrible story.
It is. The flooding is terrible. In Western Carolina, it's terrible. Our thoughts are with the not just the wrestlers, of course, but with the people of Asheville and Western North Carolina. Um, and It'll be interesting to see if these guys, if they do make it to Dynamite this week, if they'll sort of address what's happened, because I think this is much bigger than wrestling and very important.
Yeah, I said this is the kind of thing that because I mean Tony Khan does a lot of charitable things anyway. This is the kind of thing though because guys of his are live there that I almost can feel that they'll do something on the show as a fundraiser type thing there too, or make a donation or something like that too. So yeah, we'll keep tabs on that though as far as that goes. Now to the part. Well, we'll just talk some wrestling here for a bit. Wanted to review the 2 nights of Grand Slam. I mean, 2 nights of TV Grand Slam. One night for the folks who were there. Uh, and Where do you want to start? I mean, maybe start at the beginning, the first match of the show from Wednesday. And did you think that Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness lived up to the hype? Nigel had been hinting to this match, it seemed like, on the commentary desk for a couple of years, and we finally
Yes,
got the match, finally got the payoff.
there was no chance of it living up to the excitement because Nigel's been out of the ring so long. Obviously, he appeared at All In, but it's been 13 years since he's had his singles wrestling match. That's a lot of ring rust to shake off. Now, Danielson's the perfect opponent for someone like him to face because he's the ultimate master in the ring, the ultimate ring general. But I thought it was a good match. At times, Nigel looked like him, like his old self. At times, he looked like he'd been away for a long time. But it was a satisfying ending, and I'm interested to see if Nigel continues to berate Danielson with the vigor that he has for the last year and a half, or not.
Yeah, the only concern I had was that because for like the last year and a half, he'd been talking so much trash on the commentary desk that it made you think that this might be possible, a match might be possible. That Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels a little flat just to have one match and it's over. I almost wanted to see, some kind of a weird ending where it could lead to a second match or something like that. And who knows if Nigel is up for that. Though I will say he looks like he's in shape. And you talked about the ring rust. You got to get that ring rust off. I wonder if Nigel, if this was just a one-off for him, or if he might become maybe a special attraction, semi-regular kind of guy for AEW going forward.
I know he mentioned about a month ago, probably in an interview, that he has been in shape and been prepared to wrestle for a while now, and just hasn't because he wants to give younger wrestlers a chance. He's got to be 47 or 48 years old. Um, I almost wish he had gotten a few matches leading up to this, and then maybe they could have had a time limit draw, and they could have had a few matches. It's like you said, this not only have they had over a dozen matches previously, but for the last year and a half, they've been building towards this. And I think a lot of people wanted to see it at Wembley. Obviously, plans changed, and he's now the champion. But that being Danielson, but um, I feel like they could have gotten more mileage out of this if not for this story with John Moxley that's going on.
48 years old. I did check, so good math there on that. Indeed, Nigel is, that's why I say maybe more special attraction kind of guy. But I don't know what special attraction there'd be. Maybe this was his special attraction because he's he's already done the thing he needed to do. The only thing I'd say about that is you work so hard to get in shape, and I've seen other guys do this in the past. Stone Cold Steve Austin, that one appearance he made at WrestleMania, well, I think it was last year. Um, you work for when you're not in wrestling shape, and then you have to get yourself back in wrestling shape, and it takes you 6 or 9 months to get there. And then you have one match. It's almost like, come on, I'm in shape now. I want to do
Yeah,
some stuff. So
yeah.
you wonder about that too. But um, as for the rest of the show, what did you think? What were the other highlights from Wednesday's show, the live show from New York?
I thought the Young Bucks in the United Empire match was good. I wasn't completely satisfied with the ending, but it was a good match, and as you'd expect of four wrestlers of their caliber. The women's match was good, and I like where that story between Ryan May and Mina Shirakawa was heading. But the match itself was all right. It was, a lot of these matches were just a little too predictable. I think that was the biggest problem with the show. I expected Hook to win. I expected the Young Bucks to win. I expected Ryan May to win. And honestly, I expected John Moxley to win because you're not going to have a babyface beat Bryan Danielson for that title. And you're probably not going to have a babyface wrestle him at a pay-per-view. So, you know, um, but all in all, I really like the tag team match. And the Hook and Roderick Strong match was another highlight for me. I think that was Roderick Strong is a perfect opponent for Hook, stylistically speaking.
Yeah, yeah. I was impressed by the surprise debut of MVP. And how they brought him out. I mean, bringing out Prince Nana for what seemed like an oddly timed one-off stage interview. I'm watching the show just like everybody else, and why is he out there? And then MVP walks out, and I was like, "Whoa, business just picked up here." And it's going to be interesting to see the way that it seems like MVP is going to be used here at first is going to be interacting with Nana and Swerve Strickland. And so I don't know where I see that going, but I'm intrigued.
I loved MVP's debut. I think that was a highlight of the show. And it would be cool to see him with Swerve. I wonder if Swerve's going to stay with Nana, and that's the introduction for Bobby Lashley. There's a lot of avenues they could go here, and I'm really really excited for for MVP's involvement with Swerve. I think Swerve doesn't need to be in the world title picture right now, and this gives him a program in the mid card that brings a lot of intrigue to AEW that it otherwise wouldn't have. And that's what former champions should be able to do. That's where you want them to be in the card. They can't always be in the title picture.
Jump ahead to Collision from last night. Now, of course, again, it was taped on Wednesday night, so the live crowd got this a lot of wrestling on Wednesday night. The main event was something. Now, so I will say a lot of this show was similar, Ray, into what you said. You kind of knew who was going to win the matches, mostly. I did like, even though we knew who was going to win between Adam Page and Jeff Jarrett, I still liked the match. Lumberjack strap match. You don't see that a lot. And at first, when it was called a lumberjack strap match, I was thinking, okay, though, why are they going to have lumberjacks when two guys are tied together with a strap? That doesn't make any sense. You don't need lumberjacks when they're tied together. But
Right.
okay, so you just give all the lumberjacks a strap. That's good. Um, and they used the match to set up something at the end. I like the way this was done.
Yeah, I actually saw on Jeff Jarrett's pod after I wrote the preview. I saw on Jeff Jarrett's podcast that what this was going to be. Not that I watch his podcast regularly, but anyways, yeah, what a fun gimmick for these two. Very early TNA ish, but I enjoyed it, and I love Juice Robinson. I think he's one of the best total packages AEW has in terms of the promo and the wrestling ability. and I can't wait to see him and Hangman Page. I kind of wonder if the end game here is maybe Jay White. These guys have a rivalry that began long before AEW. And I would love to see a babyface Jay White and heel Hangman. So, we'll see where this goes. But I love Hangman's character right now. Um, he is so believable in his portrayal. Sometimes I feel like he really does hate the roster and the fans. It's so convincing. He just doesn't seem anything like he used to be.
I happened to watch, I think it was last week. I was flipping around on YouTube and something came up in recommendations for me. It was a Magnum TA versus Ric Flair match from 1985. And caught my attention. So I'm going to watch this match. It went 30 minutes. Flair got the win. Magnum did a belly to belly. The referee was knocked down, and then Flair pulled the tights and won the match. But it just made me think of Magnum. Magnum TA reminds me a lot. I may have said this before on podcast. He reminds me a lot, or maybe Adam Page reminds me a lot of Magnum TA. And it's interesting. They're both guys from Virginia,
Yeah.
similar size guys. Magnum was maybe a little taller, but similar build and everything else. And people remember Magnum TA, and this is I'm talking way back in the day now. His career ended in 1986 with that tragic car accident, but he was a guy that was going to be the world champion at some point soon after that, if not for that accident in 1986. He was being groomed to be the replacement for Ric Flair in the late 80s. Um, People remember him for being a babyface, but the feud that had gotten him on the doorstep of the world title was a feud with Nikita Koloff for the U.S. title. That boy, I mean, we got to see a little bit of a dark side of Magnum too, because the Russians were going to all avenues to try to undermine Magnum, and he got stripped of the title because he attacked the NWA president, the kayfabe baby NWA president Bob Geigel, and got stripped of the title, and they put it up for a best of seven series. And I don't know, it just there's similar vibes to me, and so when I watched that match, it kind of brought all that back for me. That Adam Page, could be a guy that's reminiscent of a great like Magnum TA.
From the promos I've seen of Magnum, especially with Dusty, and I think definitely juxtaposed to Dusty, it was more prevalent. Is he didn't have the kind of bubbly attitude that Dusty did. He always seemed serious. It seemed like at times it was hard for him to smile and be happy. Almost, he was just so committed to the role that he was portraying and so serious about the business. I definitely see what you're saying. Hangman Page has never, it's hard to tell when he's happy. He's someone who always seems like he's just not satisfied. And I think finally maybe that's effervesced to the surface that he had a really great interview before his match with Swerve, and he said that if the fans really loved me, they would hate Swerve Strickland. And what a I mean, how I wish he would say that on television, because how else can you uh, make this any clearer what he feels? I mean, if the fans really loved him, then they would hate Swerve Strickland, right?
What a baby face he is. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
he's an anti-hero almost kind of baby face. He burned down the guy's house on TV a couple weeks ago. That kind of guy. But yeah, he's a hard edge baby face, and to me, for me to compare him, I was a huge Magnum TA fan, and still to this day, it breaks my heart that he didn't, that he had that accident and didn't get to live out his destiny in wrestling. He got to do a lot of other things in life, but not to be the NWA World Champion. That's a huge compliment. It's meant as a huge compliment for me anyway. As far as that goes. Let's see the rest of that show. Uh, I guess I'm intrigued by Wheeler Yuta. And the way that trios match went. He was teasing for the last couple of weeks that he wasn't sure about helping defend the titles. And then he had the moment where he snapped. I definitely want to see more of that.
I feel like the BCC, the entire purpose of this was to groom Wheeler Yuta to be, towards the main event, and I think unilaterally we can agree it's sort of failed. He's become an afterthought in this group, so it's nice to see. It's nice to see him at the forefront of this story, at the center of it, and his relationship with all of these guys. Wheeler Yuta is an extremely talented wrestler in the ring, but the character is just not quite there fully yet. And I hope this starts to build that ethos for him. Um, because I think he's very young. He's a bright future in the business. Um, so are they still calling this the Blackpool Combat Club? I'm a little confused about that.
I wonder too. I don't watching the show last night, I don't remember one way or the other. Even though and now Pac is obviously involved. I'm confused too. And of course, I mean the Blackpool Combat Club was Regal, so I don't it was William Regal when before he left. So I don't. I mean, I guess and whether they're calling him that or not, we still have the ties there. But yeah, it seems like it's fraying right now.
It's much easier to write the reviews when the factions have names. Um,
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, and we know who's in the faction because is
yeah,
Pac in the
yeah,
faction or
exactly.
not?
Yeah.
Um,
What I know, Roosh returned and he's reformed the LFI with the Beast Mortos and Dralistico. Um,
I like that match, that the three-way match there. It was entertaining.
it was entertaining.
Yeah, it was a lot of high flying stuff, but very very fun to watch.
This match was not for the Cult of Cornet.
No, no, it wasn't.
No, it was not. But I can't help but enjoy. I mean, I understand it doesn't exactly look like a simulated combat sport per se, but is it impressive? It's very impressive, especially the way these guys move around the Beast Mortos, and the way he moves is always entertaining to watch. What are your thoughts on Hologram, who is sort of kind of becoming a fan favorite of this Collision crowd?
Yeah, at first, when it was rolled out and it seemed like Tony Khan was putting a lot of stock into it, to me the rollout wasn't so good at first. Like okay, so it's another flippy guy. I mean, I'll use the
Yeah,
cult of cornet language for it, but he's starting to grow on me, and but you got to work him with guys like he did last night, Mortos and the Lucha guys, the guys. But when you put him in that mix, he's gonna be fun to watch. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of WCW in the late 90s, when that little period of time, that year or two, when everything was going perfect in WCW. You had your big man division with the NWO and what was going on there, and you had your cruiserweight division with Eddie Guerrero and Benoit and Malenko, and then you had the Lucha guys, and it was like they didn't need to interact with each other.
yeah,
It was just okay. This is the Lucha segment.
yeah,
If it's booked that way, um, I look forward to that segment each week, or on each show, on the Collision and Dynamite shows. So, in that context, Hologram, yeah, he's now. There was one move last night. The only time I've got a problem with any of those things, I don't mind the flippy stuff, as the detractors call it. It's when it takes a little too long to develop. And there was one move where he started walking the ropes and did a, a what was that? Like a shooting star press off the top rope onto the floor onto a guy. It was impressive. It just took a little too long to develop. Got to get a little more crisp with that. But
yeah,
those matches are fun, and the Beast Mortos is a perfect foil, because he's shorter, but as a result, he's still about the same weight as the other guys. He's around 200 pounds, but he's packed because he's probably about 5'5" or 5'6". He's a bigger guy for a
yeah.
small guy, and so he's a great guy to work with the high flyer guys. And it's just entertaining. I am entertained by those matches.
I've often thought I almost wish they could trade out one of these mid card men's titles for a lucha title,
Yeah.
and maybe that's something they can work on with CMLL. Having some one of those, they have CMLL has so many titles, so many middleweight, welterweight titles, historic, whatever. It'd be nice to see one of those come over to AEW and just have that division sort of have some more gravity to it. That these guys are contending for one title, and it kind of is a way for these guys to all emerge and converge in one part of the show. Um, I mean, I'm not saying we need more titles in AEW, but maybe a substitute would be nice.
Well, I think we talked about this sometime recently. Almost like how TNA had the X division.
Mhm.
To make the TNT title. a different belt than just another belt that a guy has. They've got a
Yep.
continental belt now. Maybe set uh, whether you make it formal or not. Just almost make it like, okay, so the Beast Mortos is the continental champion, and he wrestles against a bunch of other lucha types, and it wouldn't just have to be
Yeah.
luchas. You could throw top flight in there. The top
Mhm,
flight
yeah.
individual guys, Action Andretti, could fit that style. Leo Rush has worked in Mexico for a number of years. But that would sort of be that title. And then maybe your TNT title is kind of like the Intercontinental title was back in the day in WWF, or the U.S. title in the Mid Atlantic territory, where that's your title. If you win that title, we think you're in the mix for a world title run at some point. We want to test you out a little bit. So it's kind
Yep.
of like the mid card title, and give those some defined roles. So it's not just this guy's a champion, this guy's a champion, this other guy over here's a champion. Make it defined, and that would work. I think that kind of thing could work.
Absolutely. I think and when the international title was unveiled, that's what I wanted that to be a title for, I mean, you have Johnny, what is his name? Johnny Elite, Johnny TV.
Johnny
That's his name.
Collision, Dynamite, whatever he is now.
But
Yeah,
like you said, Action Andretti, Leo Rush, Top Flight. There's so many guys who would have been perfect for that late '90s WCW cruiserweight division. That you could make that kind of title the international, the TNT title could be the title for the next world champion. Um, I wish the TNT championship was more like a traditional television title, but anyways,
yeah.
uh, wish in one hand and what in the other, right? But anyways, yeah, I love that hologram match, and I really enjoy hologram. But like you said, you have to put him with more of these lucha guys or people like the Beast Mortos who are foils for these guys. Um, I'm interested to see, I guess it looks like it's going to be him and LFI feuding for a little while. And Hologram versus Roosh would be fantastic. So,
And let's get a good build to the feud,
yeah,
and let it develop for a while. But I agree.
yeah,
One other thing I wanted to talk about from last night's show, Saraya and Jamie Hayter, and Jamie Hayter got the win, but I thought, Saraya in her year plus, I'm not sure how long it's been, maybe 2 years now in AEW, her return from being
yeah.
off for several years after her injuries in WWE. She's cleared to wrestle, but she's not worked a hard style. You can tell that they're being very careful with her, and she's being very careful in the ring. Last night, I thought that was a pretty good match from her. She actually looked, and the word is that she has re-upped and she's going to be in AEW for a while after this, so that's good news too. But you know, um, I'm thinking that with her, I mean, I like what she does on the mic. I think she's
Mhm.
got she's defined herself as to who she is, and she's a good heel. Um, that kind of showing in the ring last night could mean more for her in the future.
She has, because she wrestles on Rampage so often, and even I don't watch Rampage some weeks because Friday night at 10 o'clock is sort of a dead time zone. But she has really improved steadily in the ring, and a lot of it's gone unnoticed because she's on Rampage. And I mean, what a match! Jamie Hayter can make anyone look better, but Saraya has definitely improved a lot. Like you said, I like what she does on the microphone. I think she's carved out a place in this women's division for herself, and with Harley Cameron, sort of as an entertaining act together. I really like the promo where she explained the rules for the Saraya rules match. Um, I mean, it's just wrestling in the early 2010s in the WWE for women's was so much different than it is now. Is that even if she was healthy the entire time, it was going to take time for her to acclimate to this division because there are a lot of good women's wrestlers in AEW right now. A lot of good in the ring, a lot of great workers, and Divas wrestling was just so much different back then. But I think she's caught up. I think she's. I've seen some matches where she looks really great now.
I'm with you. I don't watch a lot of Rampage. When I do watch, I'm probably not paying attention on Friday nights at 10 o'clock. But
Right.
the reason I got this, she got back into my consciousness was I went to the live show in Norfolk a few weeks ago, and they do tape the Rampage after
Mhm.
the Dynamite show's over, and there was a segment with her and Harley Cameron, and then a match involving them. And like, yeah, Saraya is still here. I forgot about her.
Yep.
And this Harley Cameron thing with what they're doing, Harley Cameron is a really good flunky, and Saraya is a good, boss to a flunky, I guess. And they're playing that really well. So, let's get to the part of the show now. Let's talk a little bit of free agent stuff. Um, let's start with a couple of guys. Malakai Black. It seems like now I read this story, Ray, and I got to throw this thought in. Apparently, the word is Malakai Black. His contract is expected to be up either at the end of the year, first of next year, and there's apparently interest from WWE. I think it's always so fascinating to hear this kind of thing because when a guy's under contract or a gal's under contract, that means you can't talk to him. And so, as a result, these stories get floated out. Somebody says something to somebody, it ends up getting to Dave Meltzer or Sean Ross Sapp. Oh, and then it gets out like this. But um, Malakai Black is a guy that I could not argue has been used well. And I mean, at first he came in, he was working with Cody Rhodes
Mhm.
in AEW a few years ago, and it's pretty much House of Black trios matches and fits and starts. So I can see, and plus he's got a wife that's in WWE. Maybe he wants to make his life a little less complicated from a travel standpoint. I can see this. I can see this happening.
He was such a big figure in NXT Black and Gold, had a lot of great matches, and really carved out the niche that he's fallen into and carried into AEW as Aleister Black in NXT. His main roster run was not great. I know he had from my understanding, he had a backstage altercation with Kevin Owens that really derailed everything he had going on there. Um, but it's hard to deny in the last year, really since they lost the trios titles at All Out, or at All In, I mean, in 2023, while they've been in matches, they have not really done much with the House of Black. Julia Black had a great run as TNT champion, and they were there for that. But there's so many guys in AEW, and it just seems like Tony Khan can only at one time manage to focus on so many people at once. Um, Maybe it wouldn't be bad for Aleister Black to go back. And like you said, his wife is in WWE. Maybe it would simplify his life a little bit. But the House of Black is a really great act. It's a really great, enjoyable trios in AEW, and they just haven't been used. And instead, right now, you have a trios champion who they don't even really want to be wrestling together right now. What does that say about that division? So I don't know. Do we expect him to have any single success in AEW within the next year? I don't. Now, I'm not saying that there's a lot of room for improvement in the WWE because they have so many stars already, but nostalgia is powerful, and I'm sure he's nostalgic for a time when he was a big singles wrestler, and he was that, and he was an NXT champion at a time when that championship mattered a lot.
Yeah. There was his run was in the middle of a lot of guys that held the belt for a few months at a time. One guy we'll talk about coming up next. Two guys from WWE whose contracts apparently are coming up soon. AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Um, I guess we're when we talk about guys' contracts coming up, that means that we have to wonder aloud about their future. Are they going to sign back with WWE? Would there be interest in AEW for either guy? Or AJ Styles might be getting to a place where he might be deciding to hang it up. What do you think is going to go on with those two guys?
You know, for Shinsuke, I'll say this. I'm not a, I'm not super knowledgeable about the economic standpoint from in Japan. I know that the yen is right now currently weaker than the dollar, and that influenced Okada's decision to come to America a lot. It's a lot of the reason why he decided to leave New Japan. Is Shinsuke's got to be at the point where he knows his career's winding down. Is he going to look for an ending in New Japan, or does he enjoy living in America and making the kind of money you can make here? I mean, I think both of these guys are people who AEW would love to have, and they could feature them in huge spots immediately. They could have, you look at Sting's last run and how phenomenal it was. Just from top to bottom, that whole 3 year stretch was fantastic for Sting. If you're an older wrestler, I think that speaks volumes to what you could accomplish at the end of your career in AEW, especially for someone like AJ, who's just been great everywhere he's ever been. And, he would be a great AEW World's Champion. For Shinsuke, if you go to AEW, well, then you can still work in New Japan. You really get the best of both worlds. But a lot of it comes down to, do these guys want to change their lives right now when they're so deep in their career, and they, really they're not doing much in WWE at all, and I assume they're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So
For some reason it reminds me of when I've been covering wrestling long enough that I remember when TNA started, and I would jump on conference calls with guys. And you mentioned Sting when he made the jump to TNA back in like 2005 or 2006, something like that. Um, a value was, hey, we don't, TNA doesn't travel a lot. They do one show a week, and it's a similar thing to AEW. The WWE lifestyle's tough. I have seen AJ and Shinsuke in house show matches. The AEW doesn't do house shows. They do
yeah,
TV shows and they do pay-per-views. So
yep,
you might work one day a week, you might work 2 days a week. You're not wrestling necessarily 2 days a week, and you're not wrestling 4 or 5 days a week
yep,
like you are in WWE. Even though the style in WWE is not as taxing, house show matches especially are, pretty much a couple of bumps and that's about it. But you're still traveling, you're taking a couple of bumps, you're getting in the car going somewhere else. I mean, and when you're getting older, and then a guy like Tony Khan's throwing big money in your direction as an offer, and promising you the world, there's a bunch of guys who've taken it. So
yeah,
wouldn't blame either of these guys for doing that. And like you and AJ too, AJ and Shinsuke both could both work both AEW and New Japan. AJ has a history in New Japan, so where he kind of reclaimed his career,
yeah.
and made himself valuable to WWE. Um, Two guys who apparently want to go to WWE from AEW, but seem to be having some trouble are Penta and Ray Phoenix. Because, okay, so the word was that WWE wanted both as part of an initiative on their part. They want to more inroads into the Mexico market, and Penta and Ray wanted to take advantage of whatever money was being offered there. Maybe unhappy about their use in AEW. Um, Penta's contract apparently has already expired. Ray Phoenix, though, because of injuries and the weird way wrestling contracts work, Tony Khan could tack on time for
Mhm.
the injuries. And at first, it seemed like Tony was not going to do that. Now we're hearing that he is thinking about doing that, and that would delay Ray Phoenix being available to WWE for as long as another year,
Right.
which would then put Penta into a weird place. And oh man, this is a wild story. Tony Khan has had a reputation for saying, "Okay, I'll let you go if you want to go," and now he's apparently having a change of heart with these two guys.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about contract tampering over the last few years. I guess Chris Jericho was the first person to really illuminate the problem, I believe, and Swerve Strickland has since affirmed it and said that they tried to lure him back while he was under contract. And did that take place while the Lucha Brothers were negotiating their new contract with WWE or negotiating with AEW? Uh, it's hard to tell. You know, it's interesting. Like you said, Tony Khan has kind of had a reputation of not performing, uh, not doing things like this, not doing business like this. And it's something that we've admonished the WWE for a long time. And you know, circling back, FTR, this happened to them when they were trying to leave. They requested to leave. They were not granted their leave. Then their contract came up and they had injury time tacked on and they had to stay longer than they wanted to. It's just not, it doesn't seem right. If someone doesn't want to be there, why make them stay, right? Um, I guess my question is, obviously, I'm assuming that given Fightful has reported this and Dave Meltzer's reported this, it's probably true. So will we see Phoenix on AEW television within the next year? Or is he just going to be couched? And he's just not, he's just going to, I guess, I don't know how exactly it works. Is he going to continue to be paid, I guess? Or has he already been paid and he's just, I don't know.
From what I
But
know, now I don't know the situation here, but what I've heard from other wrestlers, I used to when Dax Harwood had a regular podcast, he went into great detail about how WWE treated him and Cash on their way out the door.
yeah,
Essentially, their contract, they had a guaranteed minimum, which they had already hit. Their contract extended out. They were not paid during the time that their length of their contract was extended out, so because they already hit their guaranteed minimum.
right,
And
right.
so they sat around for a few months not getting paid. I don't know if that's the case in AEW or not, but that is I mean, it's a low way of doing it. It's part of the business,
Yeah,
but I can understand too, though, if I'm Tony Khan, okay, you're under contract and WWE's been talking to you and they probably shouldn't have been. Vince McMahon did this for many, many years. Doesn't make it right, but he did it for
yeah,
many years where he'd say essentially, I'm going to leave you, couch you. I like the way you put that. You're going to sit around for a year and do nothing, and people are going to forget you by the time you get to the next place. So
yeah,
then we'll see what value you got to them then. It's mean but that's the way it's always worked. This is why wrestlers need a union so they can uh,
yeah,
work around these legal issues and
right.
maybe Cornette's lawyer Stephen P. New can get involved and work on their behalf. Actually, he is working on a case involving AEW of all things,
Yes,
where he's
yes,
challenging the that clause of the contract, the how wrestlers are treated as what contract not contract workers. I'm missing the term here. Treated as independent contractors
right.
instead of being full employees. So I don't think that's going to work, unfortunately, but I admire the effort. But yeah, this is just the way wrestling has always worked, and it's really vindictive on the part of the promoters, I think.
Absolutely. You know, I guess the rumors have been around for about a year now, or maybe half a year now, that the WWE is trying to form a relationship with AAA. And Phoenix and Penta are both huge stars in AAA. I think AEW's relationship with CMLL factored a lot into why they've left, because those promotions have such a fierce rivalry within Mexico. Um, I wonder there's a lot of inner workings here. I wonder how much Conan played a part in this, who is not a fan of Tony Khan at all, very vocal about how he's not a fan of him. And I know at one point he was helping them as a real life, helping them manage uh, their contract negotiations in America. There's just a lot of moving parts here. And how much are WWE expecting them to help them smooth over that relationship with AAA so they can get in some of these arenas in Mexico? You know, um, it's hard to tell. Like I said, I just wonder if we'll see Phoenix on AEW television or not, doing jobs or what have you, whatever it may be. I mean, is LFI going to unmask him and then he goes away for a while? Well, I mean,
Yeah. Well, there's the variety of ways you can put a guy on the couch for a year. You can job him for a year.
yeah,
Or you could do what they did to FTR and have them shave each other's backs.
yeah,
I'm not sure. I think I'd rather just sit on the couch
yeah,
than do the shaving each other's backs bit. And the losing is, hey, you're having me job. At least I'm in front of people. So
yeah,
now, if you have me losing on Rampage, maybe I'm not in front of people. So it depends on how you
yeah,
do it. But any case, so one last thing to work in here. I'm not even sure, there's much to say here except just to mention Swerve Strickland apparently not knowing he was being recorded by somebody let slip and now it's getting out that he's told somebody that this new Strike Force show that Tony Khan has been talking about for a few weeks is going to replace SmackDown on Fox. Um, I don't know. I mean, he's saying that, so he must have been told that by somebody. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I see Fox being interested in wrestling again. They had SmackDown that was getting 2.3 million viewers a week, and the reason they didn't want to re-up with that with WWE for that was because great, we're getting all these viewers, but wrestling always has this issue. Even it shouldn't, but it has this issue where you can't monetize it as well as the viewership numbers suggest because advertisers are still reluctant to advertise with wrestling. So if Fox got out of the SmackDown business for that, unless they're getting a sweetheart deal from AEW, I don't know, but it's out there, so it's we're talking about it.
It's like in the 90s, the Westminster Dog Show would replace Monday Night Raw, right? Because the advertisers were, more inclined to work with the dog show, despite the fact it wasn't as highly viewed. Um, I wonder, listen, Fox and FS1, it's a very different channel. Are we talking about FS1 at I mean, well, also, what night a week are we going to be doing this?
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of talk about AEW is going to be on True TV from now on, in an effort to make True TV a more sports oriented channel. Are you showing Rampage on True TV? Are you making a new show? Is Rampage going away? I mean, this what is it called? Shockwave? Is that
Yeah. Shockwave, yeah. I call it Strike
Shockwave?
Force. Yeah, Shockwave, yeah, yeah.
Shockwave. I mean, is this going to be an hour long show? Is it going to be 2 hours long? I wonder if he's just saying it because he heard it on a dirt sheet or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
because to say we're replacing SmackDown on Fox, and
yeah,
then if the word is, oh yeah, we're gonna have a show on FS1, that's not the same. That's not
no,
even close to
no,
the same.
no. Um, I remember when like a few years ago, I guess it was the World Series was going on. SmackDown had to get off of Fox to go to FS1, and the viewership would just tank. I mean, it would be
Yeah,
so far down.
yeah.
Uh, it'd be great for them to be. I mean, listen, AEW on television is good in any event. I mean, more television exposure is a good thing. Another TV deal is a good thing. Um, but yeah, FS1's a lot different than Fox.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not the it's not the flex I think he thinks it is. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
it's news nonetheless, and it's interesting that they now seemingly are working with two different television networks. It's a good sign for AW's growth. Absolutely a positive sign.
Oh, that is, yeah. Well, if even if they're on FS1, it's a good sign. Just like WWE's diversified and has for years.
Yeah.
They were on USA and Fox. Now they're on USA and Netflix. So yeah, that way you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. That's a good thing. Well, for our viewers and listeners out there, Ray has regular columns here on AFP. We do, Ray does reviews of shows, previews of pay-per-views. When's our next pay-per-view? My head's in so many different things. It's got to be coming up in the next couple weeks, right?
Yeah, so it's Wrestle Dream in Tacoma, Washington, and let me get the exact date. October 12th,
Okay.
a Saturday, which I'm excited about. Back to Saturday pay-per-view. But yeah, Wrestle Dream, Tacoma, Washington. Main event looks like it's going to be Danielson versus Moxley for that AEW World Championship.
And we've been going in that direction for a while, even though we didn't know it, but we should have been going in that direction for a while. Now we're finally getting there. Look
Yep.
forward to Wednesday's show. I'm looking forward to Britt Baker in Pittsburgh. I love Britsburg. I love those shows when they do that. All the fans there and she's going to be wrestling Serena D. That'll be a great match because Serena D is such a good technical wrestler that
Yes.
they'll both raise each other's levels there. So looking forward to that. And yeah, whatever else we can get into here in wrestling. Well, Ray, as always, thank you for your time, your insight, and look forward to your next column.
Thank you, Chris.